Hi everyone, my name is Alicia Albrechtsen from Pneumatic Addict, and I just finished installing this vertical wood slat wall in my bedroom and in my kitchen as well. Wood slat walls are nothing new, but with mine, I knew I wanted to do a couple of things that were a little unique. First of all, I wanted it made out of solid hardwood. I wanted to use the same poplar that I have throughout the house, including my kitchen and my stairs. Secondly, I wanted my wood slats to be a little bit different than the average dimensions that you might find off the shelf at your typical hardware store. I decided to mill my own slats out of solid hardwood boards. So keep watching and you can learn how to make your own hardwood slat wall. This video is sponsored by DAP Products. If you're going to be using a lot of hardwood like I did for this project, by far the most cost-effective option is to go to a hardwood supplier and buy rough sawn boards. Rough sawn boards are much cheaper than surfaced or milled boards that are flattened and smooth on all four sides, but they do require that you have some machinery like a thickness planer and require quite a bit more work. We purchased about 120 board feet of 8/4 thick poplar from our local hardwood store. 8/4 is the fancy woodworker's way of saying 2 inches thick. Whenever you're working with rough sawn lumber, you always want to buy material that's a little bit thicker than what you ultimately want to end up with. We passed each board through the thickness planer on both sides, slowly removing material until we had removed about 1/4 inch of thickness in total. After the planing process, our boards were smooth and flat, but we still had a little bit more work before we could start ripping them into strips. The original boards were very long. Some of them were over 12 feet. So the next thing we did was to use a circular saw and a speed square to cut the boards into rough lengths. These cuts definitely wouldn't be square or clean enough to use as final cuts. The goal was just to cut the material down into more manageable sizes. I made sure to cut each board just a little bit longer than what I needed for its finished length. Before I could start ripping each board into slats, I needed to straight line one edge of the board. Although they might look pretty straight, the outside edges of the boards were actually pretty rough and they tend to wander in and out, creating a poor reference to use on a table saw. You could use what's called a jointer to clean up this edge, or if you don't have a jointer like me, you can use a track saw or even a circular saw with an edge cutting guide to create a straight line on one edge. If this is the first time you've watched a Pneumatic Addict video, I want to say welcome. I'm glad you're here. Take a second to make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell down below. That way you'll never miss one of my DIY projects. At this point, my boards were finally ready to start ripping into strips. I had played around with a few 3D models and knew that I wanted my wood slats deeper than they were wide. After planing down the faces of my boards, I was left with about 1 3/4 inches of thickness. I set the fence of my table saw so I could cut the slats into 1 1/4 inch wide strips. A couple hours and lots of sawdust later, I ended up with about 70 different slats. At this point, the slats were still rough in length because I wanted to be able to cut each one in place during install. I began the tedious job of starting to sand all 4 exposed faces of the 70 slats. Now, I'm one of those weirdos who actually doesn't mind sanding too much, but I'll admit, I totally underestimated how much work this was going to be. I used my orbital sander to sand, and sand some more, and sand some more. I have been sanding for like 2 days straight. It is taking forever and I am sick of it. I need to find another solution. I'm not even close to being done and it's taking forever. A couple days in, my hands were going numb from the vibration of the sander and I was feeling totally overwhelmed. Luckily, I belong to a super cool local woodworking group here in Arizona. I reached out in our Facebook group and asked if anybody had a drum sander that they would let me come use. My friend Jesse from Kozakski Customs came to my rescue and let us drive up to his Phoenix shop and use his drum sander for a few hours. It still took us quite a while to get all 4 sides of the 70 slat smooth, but it was much better than trying to do it by hand. The last bit of sanding that I needed to do was to break the sharp edges of the boards. To do this, my favorite technique is just to do it by hand. I actually think it's the quickest way. At this point, we were finally ready for finish. To keep the poplar as pale and blonde as possible, ideally I would have used a water-based finish like polyacrylic. However, one of the downsides of water-based finishes is the fact that it will raise the grain when applied to raw wood. I wasn't about to re-hand sand all 70 slats after the first coat of finish, so I decided to go with a sprayed lacquer instead. Although lacquer can very slightly yellow blonde wood, it's typically my go-to finish because it's so easy to apply, it's self-leveling, and it dries really quickly, making it possible to apply 3 or 4 coats in just a few hours. While the last coat of lacquer was drying on the slats, I came inside the house and began the prep work for installation. The idea was to get that acoustic paneling look. I was going to run the slats from the floor all the way to the ceiling. I started by marking the location on the wall, and then I began to cut away and remove the baseboards. By far, my favorite tool for this job is a cordless oscillating multi-tool. I provided links for all the products used in the video description, so make sure you check that out. Once I had pried off the baseboards in the area where I was going to work, I began laying out my spacing using a very important tool, my laser level. I applied a healthy bead of construction adhesive to the back of my first slat and began to move it into place. The construction adhesive will do the biggest job to hold the slat against the wall, but wherever possible, I also drove a 2.5-inch 16-gauge finish nail into the framing behind the wall. Since the slats ran the full length from the floor to the ceiling, that meant every slat could be secured at least to the top and bottom plate of the wall. Conveniently, this corner of the kitchen is also what's called a shear wall, which meant that it had been sheeted with OSB when it was built. So I could drive finish nails the entire length of the slats and they would have something more substantial to grab into other than just the drywall. I found the easiest way to maintain my spacing was to use 2 pieces of scrap block. One the size of my spacing and one the thickness of my actual slats. After attaching the previous slat, I would place the 2 blocks next to it and then use my laser level to determine where the edge of the next slat should be. The small portion of the kitchen wall that I installed was pretty straightforward. After that was complete, I moved into our bedroom, which was just a little bit more complicated. The wall area I wanted to panel in our bedroom had a few more challenging spots, like outlets and also a large opening to accommodate the television. I'm sure somebody could come up with a more elegant solution, but I found the easiest way to accommodate these openings was just to cut my boards and create gaps. Now this wall had been built differently than the shear wall in our kitchen. It was traditionally framed, which means the studs were 16 inches on center and no OSB backing behind the drywall. I switched my finish nails to 2¼ inch length and continued to install the slats the same way. Whenever possible, I still nailed into the wood framing of the wall, but with this type of application, the construction adhesive is really doing all of the holding. The finish nails are only long enough to reach through the 1/2-inch thick drywall and really are meant to work temporarily to hold the slat while the construction adhesive sets up. If you don't have a finish nailer that will accommodate 2.5-inch long nails, another option is to use trim head screws. Trim head screws have a very tiny head that's not much larger than a finish nail. They leave a pretty small hole that's easy to fill with wood filler later. Screws are also a good option if you have a board that's a little twisted and you have to kind of push it into place. After the full-length side pieces and the bottom slats of the paneling that would go around the TV were installed, I started working on the top portion. I used a traditional level to mark the bottom horizontal line, and then my laser level definitely came into play some more. My laser level is making my life much easier right now. I love that thing. I'm having no trouble lining up the slats from the bottom row under the TV with the top row. All I do is I just set my laser level to the edge of one of the bottom slats, and I know exactly where to place the corresponding one up above. After just a couple of hours work, all the wood slats were installed and I could begin working on some of the finishing touches. At this point, I need to fill in all my little nail holes across all the wood. Typically, when I'm filling holes in a pre-finished surface, I like to use a pre-tinted wood filler. My favorite that I usually use is made by DAP. It's called plastic wood. It comes in a whole bunch of different tones and colors. The problem is with this poplar, there is a variety of colors that I need to fill. If I used a single colored wood filler, it might match some holes and stand out in others. So for this project, I am using DAP Premium Wood Filler. What's cool about this is it can be tinted to match the exact material that you need to fill. You can tint DAP Premium Wood Filler using a variety of products. For example, on this project, I used both water-based wood stain as well as acrylic paint to get 4 different tones that work with the poplar. Another thing I like about Premium Wood Filler is the fact that it cleans up with soap and water. So how I like to apply it is I rub a small amount of the wood filler into the nail hole, wait a few minutes, and come back with a damp rag to wipe off the excess. Once all the nail holes were filled, the last thing I needed to do was to caulk the outside seams where the slats meet the drywall. Applying strips of painter's tape to both sides of the seam helps make sure that I get a super crisp and narrow caulk line. My favorite product for this type of application is Alex Plus, made by DAP. You've probably seen Alex Plus before because it's the #1 selling latex caulk in the country. It's an all-purpose acrylic latex caulk with silicone. It's highly flexible and resists cracking and shrinking. I use it to seal pretty much all the trim and molding in my house. Once the tape was pulled away, my new slat walls were complete. I am in love with the way both of these walls look, but especially in my primary bedroom. I know a big black TV is not the most beautiful thing to stare at on the wall, but having the TV surrounded by these thicker slats really helps minimize its intrusiveness. Although this is probably one of the dustiest projects I've ever done, it was totally worth it. If you want to see more of the DIY modern house that we built, I recommend you check out the full Building Modern on a Budget series. If you like other types of DIY content, check out this video as well. I know there's lots of different ways to tackle a vertical slat wall like this. If you tried something different, I'd like to know what you used. Make sure to leave a comment down below. And as always, thanks for watching, guys.